welcome to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon Podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors, precisionhydration.com. You can personalize your hydration strategy today with electrolytes in different strengths that match how you sweat. You can get 15% off your first order with the code OxygenAddict15. And we're also brought to you by Athletic Greens. Athletic Greens Ultimate Daily is an all-in-one daily supplement with 75 vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and digestive enzymes. And they're all whole food sourced ingredients. Listeners can get 20 free travel packs worth over £60 with your first purchase at athleticgreens.com/oxygenaddict. All right, everybody. Hello, welcome to the show. I want to kick today off just by saying thank you to everybody who's dropped me a line, sent me an email, Twitter, Instagram post, private messages and DMs and stuff, giving me get well messages. I've really appreciated it. I even had one of the guys I coach offer to do my shopping for me while I was sick last week, which touched me greatly. I was very sweet of all of you, but I do really value all the messages that you sent through, and especially people sort of saying, we appreciate you getting the podcast out even though you're not well. And it's my pleasure. I enjoyed doing it, and it's good fun, and it kept me motivated while I was sitting around last week, not feeling like doing very much of anything at all, to be honest. So I hope you guys are all well. I know a lot of the members of our team are all doing okay. Some of them have been down with the illness. And again, we're seeing the pattern that some people are getting affected by it in different ways to other people. Some people are getting really, really sick and ill with high temperatures and coughs. Some people, like I did, I had a bad cough for a while, but then I just felt exhausted. And that lasted for me for a period of about 10 days. And I started feeling all right again, sort of Sunday, Monday of this week. Monday I felt great, and then Tuesday, yesterday again, I was just absolutely exhausted, and I fell asleep watching the telly with my son at 6 o'clock. Tried to pull myself together to do our Zwift ride at 7, and I lasted about half an hour before I climbed off, had a quick shower, and managed to get him into bed. And I went to bed just after him at probably 8:30 and didn't wake up until 7 o'clock this morning, so fully clothed. Well, classy. So I woke up, it's like being a student again. Woke up in my clothes and my jeans still, and had slept solidly for about 11 hours. So this is not an illness that you want to get if you can possibly avoid it. It's something that more and more people are saying it really does linger on. And even though I thought, 10, 11 days on, I'm over it, I feel great, I don't need to worry. Even having just eased myself back in with a really easy spin on the bike, I felt absolutely zonked. So do everything that you can. I know everybody is doing, but it's worth a constant reinforcement, I think, to say to people, just do everything that you can to not pick this virus up. If you can avoid going out, if you can avoid going in the shops, if you can avoid seeing people, it's really worth trying to really lock down your circle of influence and try and stay as well as you can through all of this. It won't last forever. And I know it's really hard when the weather's really nice outside, isn't it? But it'll get better soon. So thank you to everybody who dropped me those messages. I really appreciate it. Now, first up on today's show, some of you will have seen the tweet that I've sent out. We've managed to get, believe it or not, a world exclusive with the PTO, the Pro Triathlete Organization. We've got Sam Renouf, the CEO of the PTO, coming on to tell you guys a world exclusive about what they've got coming up next. So I'm not going to spoil it. I'm going to let him tell you all about it. Sam Renouf, it's great to have you on the show. CEO of the Pro Triathlete Organization. Welcome on board.
Thank you, Rob. Great to be here.
Well, I thought it'd be interesting to get you on and have a quick chat with you because, the big news a couple of weeks ago when everyone started panicking about, we're all going to be locked down, you guys came along and said, well, we're going to pay out $2.5 million to our athletes and support them through this time, which was pretty much a universal blew the socks off everybody, I think. So hats off to you guys for doing that, firstly.
Thank you. Well, look, it was actually a very logical decision, to be perfectly honest. So we sat down as a group. Obviously, everyone was assessing as a business that derives value from events, right? So we had our Collins Cup that we'd obviously announced. We were all gunning towards that date on May the 30th. And initially we got together to discuss the Collins Cup and what we were going to do. But actually the conversation quickly shifted to the athletes and the very precarious situation that many were going to be. And you may have seen us put these statements out that, professional triathletes are ultimately self-employed individuals. And in this environment, that meant overnight they went from being self-employed to unemployed. And so whilst governments out there have been providing support and surplus and pumping money into the financial markets or providing support to businesses, we felt this was the role that the PTO should play as relates to our athletes, and sort of provide a safety net to make sure that all of these fantastic athletes that had huge earning potentials through the year with all these races aren't left, unable to pay the rent, speaking candidly.
Yeah, well, it's been an incredibly difficult time for anyone who's dependent on prize money or bonuses from races to earn the living. It must be an incredibly difficult time for them as well. They can't get in a pool to train, they can't get to races to race and earn money. I've spoken to more than a few athletes over the last few weeks when I've interviewed them who've quite openly said how grateful they were for the fact that you guys had the back, essentially.
Well, and I think it's fundamental that how we view the athlete relationship, that at the end of the day, the Professional Triathletes Organization has been set up with the athletes as partners, right? They're not just people that come to our race. The athletes own this organization. And so this was the natural action to take, really. And what we were really proud to be able to do, actually, is in working with our investment partners, Crankstart, was to increase the actual overall amounts and pay that to the lower ranked athletes, right? So we had a $2 million prize, annual prize purse that we pay as part of the world rankings. That got paid immediately because we recognized no one was going to be able to earn any money for the rest of the year. But then Crankstart supported us in increasing an additional 500,000, which we paid specifically to the athletes 21 to 50 and then 51 to 100, who of course, even more impacted by not being able to go to races and earn, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 here and there. It really adds up through the year. So we were particularly proud to be able to help the lower ranked athletes with this initiative.
Well, can you help us out with how you guys view the rest of the year playing out for you? Have you pretty much decided the Collins Cup race isn't going to happen this year, or do you maybe have a contingency for possibly it happening later in the season?
So we're definitely going to move the Collins Cup out to a later date. That's already been announced. We're still working through exactly how we will structure it. It's definitely going to take place at the X Bionics Sphere, so our partners that host the championship, and it'll take place in 2021. So we've already sort of got ahead of that and said, look, such a major event like this with people traveling from all around the world, both from an athlete perspective, but also from a production perspective. So without boring your listeners into sort of the specifics of how these events are put on, we had a broadcast team that was coming from all around the world to deliver an incredible broadcast, very much focused on entertainment and biometrics and making it engaging. And we felt in this environment, squeezing that into the very short time frame at the back half of the year was going to be detrimental to the sort of the product quality. So we've already moved the Collins Cup to 2021. As relates to the rest of the year, who's got a crystal ball, right?
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to happen? Obviously, very difficult time for everybody, and much larger headwinds for society in general in dealing with COVID-19. And triathlon is very low down, the pecking order ultimately, as it should be, right? When we're worried about the health and both the mental and the physical health of general society, we obviously don't have the answers to the broader pictures. When we think about the triathlon world, obviously going through a period of massive disruption, what we are going to do, and in fact, some of your listeners, depending on when they're listening to this podcast, may have seen it announced today, is we're excited to announce a new initiative, which is called the PTO Hub. And that is going to be a central resource, a health and wellness, free to use, I should add, health and wellness platform that's being created by the professionals for the broader triathlon market, triathlon community, to provide inspiration and encouragement. And so that actually goes live on Friday. So Friday the 23rd. Oh, hang on, I don't have my calculator in front of me. So this Friday.
Friday the 17th of April, that'll be, I think,
17th,
Sam. Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that. 12 o'clock. So we'll go live with that as a product. So you'll be able to see on ptohub.org, and it will be a resource where all of our athletes are getting together and saying, look, the PTO has supported them with financial support by paying the rankings early. Now, how can they play that support forward and help everybody else? And look, these are incredible, inspiring athletes. And so we all felt collectively, the athletes and the PTO, that their best place to serve the community was inspiring others. And so it's been a really fantastic response from the athletes so far. We've had 30 plus actually out of sort of the 200 that have been funded have jumped in, and we've done interviews, we're doing training sessions, we're doing experiences, a bunch of different things that are going to go live on our platform in the coming weeks. And so we hope that'll be a source of support, encouragement, and inspiration for people in these difficult times.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So you've basically managed to get all the guys who would have been racing to create content for you in all manner of different forms that's just going to be free to access.
Exactly. Well, it's creating it in different forms, but also in a produced environment. So we've been working with each athlete and saying, what is the message they want to get across? What's their motivational story that can inspire people? And then we've been working with the production teams that we would have had for the Collins Cup, and then serving that up in sort of an easy to consume environment, which will be the PTO hub, and ultimately just becomes a place where people know that they can get great content. There are some fantastic examples of athletes out there doing this independently, and we sort of recognized that and said, let's boost that with the platform, but also provide a place where everyone can know they can go and find that kind of information. And so that's what we hope this will become a great resource for people during these times.
That sounds great. So have you guys actually been sending out your video production teams to film with the athletes?
Unfortunately not. Yeah, that's one thing we would have loved to done. In fact, we were just getting started, ironically enough, with our pre-production for the Collins Cup when the world ground to a halt.
Yeah.
In fact, I was at our race venue the day that suddenly they announced all sports events in Slovakia were going to be cancelled. They were shutting the borders a few days later. It was one of those environments as so many people were right in the middle of all of it. In this case, we've switched gears and it's all technology based, right? So we recognize everyone is in the same situation, or to be fair, actually athletes are in different situations depending on where they're living. Some are either constricted to just at home, they can't even leave the house. Others can get out for one ride a day and things like that. But more specific to your question, everything's been done through Google Hangouts and Zoom and various different technologies to speak to the athletes directly. And that's where you'll see this is a very personal response from many of them of they're going through the same situations that we all are. How are they dealing with it? How are they staying motivated? Are there particular training sessions which they've adapted to only do indoors? I'm sure many of your listeners will have seen the very funny post that Daniela Reef's done of how she's doing her swimming training. So she was jumping in the bath, and I saw her with some ice skating skates, like doing some gardening recently. So there's some lighthearted stuff, and then the more serious side of like how do we stay fit in this environment? Because healthy body, healthy mind, and I think that's really important to get through this COVID crisis.
Yeah, absolutely. And so looking forward to 2021 then, what are your hopes for the way that your your model is going to develop and continue into 2021?
Well, we still have a couple more things that we hope we might squeeze into 2020. So
really?
Working away, and look, it's one of those environments where this is changing by the hour, right? Depending on which part of the world you're in. So we recognize that both from an organizational perspective or sort of a business perspective, but also from an athlete perspective, it's really difficult to commit to things right now. But we're looking at where are the places where we could create an opportunity if I'd say market, but it's probably more society actually allows, right? So if we can put on a race, what could we do? So we're looking at a number of different options, which we hope will come to fruition later in the year. And then there's also looking at what's the other dynamics around the world has shifted, and many companies and organizations are shifting to respond to that, whether that's exhibitions online, e-races. I mean, I'm sure everyone saw the fantastic charity initiative that Jan Frodeno did just this weekend.
Yeah, he was amazing, wasn't he?
Really, really incredible. And look, a really great example of how inspiring these world's greatest athletes that triathletes can be. So we've got a few things that we're sort of working through. Hope that we'll be able to announce those in the next couple of weeks and coming months. And then it becomes all focused on 2021, as you pointed out.
Awesome. Well, that sounds great, man. So listen, thank you very much for coming on and giving us an update. Is there anything else you want to squeeze in? Anything else you want to tell the listeners about at the moment?
Oh, no, I mean, I think it's summed up by, come along to ptohub.org for a bit of, inspiration and encouragement. Stay healthy, stay safe, and help someone where you can.
Great stuff. Well, listen, Sam, thank you very much for coming on and giving us the update, and we'll look forward to checking this out on Friday.
All the best. Okay, thanks, Rob.
All right, and there we go. That's Sam Renouf from the PTO. You can get over now to ptohub.org. That goes live at lunchtime on Friday of this week, which will be Friday the 17th of April. There's currently a holding page up with a teaser trailer that's about 3 minutes long that's got little clips of video interviews that they've done with, I remember seeing Holly Lawrence, Cam Worth, Joe Skipper, amongst others that are on there. So it looks like it's going to be, loads of really good information for free. And it's, hats off to the PTO for doing what they did, giving away £2.5 million. Hats off to Crankstart Investments for putting the money where the mouth was. And it's great to see, the pros getting on there and doing stuff that's going to keep us all entertained, even if it's just something to watch while we're on the turbo. Really cool stuff. All right, so we're going to jump forward into news and results from this week. First up, sponsored by our friends Precision Hydration. If you've not been over to their website and taken their online sweat test, get over there and get on it. That'll give you a really good idea of whether you are particularly heavy or a particularly salty sweater. And for those of you who are in those categories particularly, it's really important to keep on top of your hydration and keep your electrolytes topped up, especially when you're doing lots of training indoors like most of us are at the moment. And as we head into summer, who knows, it might even get hot as well. So again, really important to keep on top of it. And I'll reiterate to you my experience. These guys were a game changer for me. Taking their 1500 milligram sachets is the difference for me between able to get through a turbo session having hideous calf and foot cramps or not. If I try and swim in usual life, it's the difference between my feet locking up when I'm in the pool or not. And even sometimes if I'm not doing anything in particular in terms of training, I'll get bad calf cramps or foot cramps in the middle of the night for almost no reason. And I think I just must sweat loads and loads of sodium out all the time. So I've got to keep on top of it. I think it's well worth everybody keeping on top of their hydration needs, especially when you are training indoors. And it's the electrolytes that are the important part of the balance there for you, not just drinking water. Okay, so get over there, check it out over at precisionhydration.com. If you've not tried them before, you get 15% off your first order with the code OxygenAddict15. All right, so things to mention to you today. Well, we've already had Sam Renouf on from the PTO, but there was a great article in The Guardian I read that said basically what football can learn from triathlon. And I think that was pretty amazing piece of triathlon breaking through into the mainstream almost, with The Guardian saying, look, the PTO have just paid out £2.5 million to their athletes. Football can learn from this, because obviously there were lots of stories in there about them furloughing their administrative and ground staff whilst the players carried on getting paid full time. So I thought it was really good to see triathlon get singled out as a sport that are really looking after their participants and pros, which was great. Other things I've noticed in terms of results, you'll probably have seen this, but if you haven't, if you go over to Jan Frodeno's Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Jan Frodeno Triathlon, this crazy lunatic did a full Ironman in his house this weekend. He swam in his own little endless pool. He then did the 180 kilometers on Zwift, and he ended it up with a marathon. So he came in overall with a time of 8 hours 30, if you can believe that. He rode 410 on Zwift for 180k, and he put out a pretty legit 255 watts for 4 hours 10 as well. So I don't think that kind of wattage would get him through a real life Ironman in that kind of time. But, 4 hours 10 for him is what it'd take him on race day. And then he ticked off a casual 2 hour 58 marathon, all the time whilst talking to people and being interviewed as he did it. So it was a pretty amazing achievement. And the really cool thing was he's raised over, last time I checked, and the total has probably gone up since then, he raised over €200,000 for charity by doing it for the local health service in Girona where he is. So that was a pretty amazing effort. So hats off to you, Jan. I think that was really amazing. We've seen some other stuff going on. We've seen, I don't know if you saw this, but if you don't follow Dave McNamee on Twitter, get on it. He did his Ironman. There was a 3K, 40K, 10K race. He did his 3K and 10K run on his balcony, which was 12 meters long, running backwards and forwards. So good on him for doing something to keep himself sane during that time. So get over and follow him on Twitter if you don't already. Some other bits of news I've noticed. First up, if you need a power meter at the moment for training on Zwift and you've decided, you need to get on Zwift and get on it, the first thing that I've noticed in terms of new news is 4i power meters, and you'll find them with the number 4 and then I. The website in the UK is the number 4, then UK.com. They've just dropped the price of their power meter, so you can now get yourself, they're a crank-based power meter, and you can get yourself the Shimano 105 version of this for under 300 quid, brand new, through their website there. So they dropped all their prices by £50 across the board. So a single-sided power meter, crank-based, for under 300 quid is a no-brainer. I've used 4i power meters for years. They sponsor Team Oxygen Addict. They're a great product. They're at an amazing price now, especially if you get yourself one for under 300 quid. But I think the Ultegra version is only an extra 50 quid on top of that. So well worth going over and checking out. Like I said, they support and sponsor our team with nice discount for team members. So I've always liked them, but I think give them a big up. If you're looking to get into power meters at under 300 quid, I don't think there's a better option out there at the moment. So yeah, go over and check those guys out, and join us on the World of Zwift for our weekly Zwift ride. If you've not been joining us for that, our Zwift ride takes place at 7:15 UK time every Tuesday. It's called the Oxygen Addict Triathlon Podcast Power Hour. And the workouts are ones written by me. Everybody stays together in the group. We had 125 people on the ride last night, and instructions come up on the screen for how hard or how easy or what you should be doing at the moment, with little encouraging comments. You've got group chat going on with all the riders that are there as well. And at the moment, the sessions that I'm writing are aimed alongside the kind of advice I've been given to my coached athletes. So we're not doing flat out 100% FTP efforts. We're doing them about 80% of FTP, which we found is hard enough to feel as though you're working hard, but not so hard that you're at danger of really sort of depleting yourself or damaging your immune system. So yeah, come and join us on that every Tuesday at 7:15 over on Zwift. And the other thing, a bit of news to mention about Zwift that I've seen, is they've just launched what they're calling it, their Zwift Z Pro Tri-Race Series. That's going to be taking place on Wednesdays. It kicks off today, Wednesday the 15th. The females race is 4 p.m. Central Eastern Time. I think in the UK we're 5 hours behind that, or 5 hours ahead of that. So will that be... It'll be 9 o'clock tonight, I think. So women's race, 4 p.m. Central Eastern. Men's race, 4:45 Central Eastern. Rumoured to be starting are Lionel Sanders, Tim Dunn, Martin Van Riel, Holly Lawrence, Lucy Charles Barkley, and Flora Duffy. So you can watch all that. There's going to be commentary on those races taking place. They're going to be 23k races, so they're going to be over in half an hour or less. So it might be something to watch while you're on the turbo tonight if you're on there. So yeah, get over there and check that out. There's links to those articles around on the Ironman website as well. Okay, so this week's interview of the week, I've got a cracker lined up for you with World 70.3 champion Gustav Iden. The interview is sponsored by our new sponsor, Athletic Greens. Just one scoop of Athletic Greens will give you 75 vitamins, minerals, adaptogens, antioxidants, prebiotics and probiotics, helpful digestive enzymes, and it's all made from a superfood complex that helps support the body's nutritional needs. And let's be honest, who couldn't do with a bit of extra support for our body's nutritional needs at the moment? They support energy, immunity, digestion, and recovery. And I personally think you'd be hard-pressed to find a more comprehensive formula than Athletic Greens. Jump over to athleticgreens.com/Oxygen Addict and claim the special offer for podcast listeners today. 23 extra free travel packs with your first purchase. That's athleticgreens.com/Oxygen Addict. All right, so here's this week's interview of the week with World 70.3 champion Gustav Iden. Gustav Iden, welcome to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon podcast, mate. It's nice to see you again, sitting there in the Norwegian sunshine. How are you doing today?
Thank you. It's good to be here, and it's good. Yeah, I've been training in the sun for once. It's been terrible weather lately, but now it's starting to get sunny, so it's nice.
Are you back home at the moment in Norway?
Yeah, I guess everyone in the world is back home at the moment. So, yeah, I'm training back home.
So let me get this right. Do you live, is it Bergen you live in?
Yeah, I'm still living with my parents in Bergen. I've been thinking about moving out, but since I'm usually on training camp all year round, it doesn't really make sense to have my own apartment yet. So yeah, we'll see in the future.
Sure. And reminds me, how old are you, man?
I'm 23.
Only 23 and already a world champion, man. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a strange feeling, but it's good.
But listen, let's kick off by firstly congratulating you on the win at the 70.3 World Championships. That was an amazing race. It was brilliant to sit and watch. Can you tell us about the race from your point of view? Because I've been doing my research a little bit before our interview today, and I've got all kinds of little facts that I want to come out in the interview, but I'd rather have you tell them than me. So talk us through your race in Nice to start with.
To start with, I'm usually very nervous before any race, and the World Champions in Nice was not an exception. I actually went to the porta potty to vomit before the start.
Really? You were that nervous, hey?
Yeah, and it's almost always that nervous. So sometimes I manage to control my nerves, sometimes I don't. This time was so unusual race for me that I couldn't get my head really straight before the start. So yeah, I had to go and vomit. So,
bless you.
But it's something I'm aware of now. So before I was stressed out, just the feeling to get nervous. So I started to get nervous to become nervous like 2 days before the race. But now I just like accept the fact that I'm going to be nervous. So it's not that bad anymore.
Okay.
But so a lot of nutrition goes out there, but luckily I've learned my lesson, and now I bring some kind of quick nutrition for my post-vomit race preparation. So I have like a big bottle of Coke or something to just fill down after.
See. Is that quite common then? Do you throw up before a few of your races?
Yeah, some races, not too much anymore. Before it was every single race, but now it's a couple of times a year. Yeah.
It reminds me quite a lot of. I read a story about, you might not know this, but Johnny Wilkinson was the English rugby player who kicked the last minute kick that won England the World Cup in rugby, and he said the same thing. He used to have to get his dad to stop the car and was sick before every game as a kid, and all the way into his professional career as well. So maybe there's something about having that extra level of nervousness that really gets you ready for the big competition.
Yeah, it's a bit. I would like to not be that nervous, but I mean, it's just who I am. So yeah, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But
okay.
Onwards for the race. I remember I was standing on the start line, feeling like the most stupid guy in the world because I forgot my race nutrition for my back pocket. So I didn't have any gels in my tri-suit. And also I looked down my foot and I didn't have my timing chip on.
Oh no.
So I was like, okay, I've lost the race, so I might as well just swim hard for the show. And let's see how it goes. But then I actually got in T1 with the leaders, and a guy comes running next to me, and I was like, "Here, you lost your timing chip," and he hands me to it. So then I realized, okay, I'm not gonna get disqualified. These guys have control. They have noticed I don't have a chip. So from there on, everything was kind of more in a calm raceway, I would say.
Yeah. Hey, well,
the swim was
That's amazing thinking by those guys, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you had a blinder of a swim. You got out of the swim with the very front pack.
Yeah.
How did the ride go for you? Because obviously, for those people who don't know, the course at Nice is quite unique, wasn't it? Flat bit, steep uphill, steep downhill, flat bit home again.
Really challenging bike course, but it's more like the World Series races than the normal 70.3 races. So I guess it was like the perfect race for me, having a mix between like Olympic distance and 70.3 guys there. So yeah. But the bad luck with the nutrition didn't stop at me forgetting the gels. I also broke my rear bottle cage like in the first K of the bike. So I lost my rear bottle cage straight out of the go. And I just had to change my mindset from doing my own race nutrition to just take everything I could on race course, like from the race suppliers. So I had a lot of refocus during the race.
So wow, you didn't have any gels in your back pocket. You completely lost your bottle cage off the back of the bike. So you really must have been just completely dependent on what you could grab on the way by.
Yeah. So I didn't lose my bottle cage, but it broke. So I could still hang some drink there, but not like in a full bottle. So on all the aid stations, I managed to take some bottles and just drink it up as fast as I could because I knew I couldn't rely on my bottle cages. So I think in the end it actually was quite good because I ended up going up Col de Vence with no bottles on. So I saved maybe almost 2 kilos up that hill. And then on the top of the hill, I managed to grab 2 bottles, 1 gel and 1 bar from one aid station.
Really?
And then I had full weight down the hill, but no weight up the hill. And I actually watched the replay of the race. And then I said brilliant tactics of Gustav. He's racing with no weight uphill. But it was just like a random coincidence.
Oh, that's fantastic. So it looked like Ali Brownlee looked like he went to the front and went pretty hard early on going up the hill. What was and the footage wasn't great watching live at like a lot of these big races. You only tend to see maybe the camera on one person. How many of you were in the group going up the Col de Vence and what kind of tempo was being ridden up there?
I actually was a bit behind because I was in the back of the front group, and I didn't realize that Ali and I guess some others have pulled away. So I wasn't aware that he was far ahead of us. But I don't know who was in the group. And in the start of Col de Vence, I heard someone said yeah, you're 150 behind. And I was like, that can't be right. And then I just saw up the hill and I couldn't even see him. And then I just thought, maybe it is right. And then I went really hard, actually, up the hill, much harder than I had planned, because I wanted to ride with someone down the hill to save some energy. And I got a bit up the hill, and then one said 115. And then I realized, okay, it wasn't 150, it was 115, so it's not that far behind. But actually, up Col de Vence, I didn't ride with a group because I basically ride past everyone.
Right, so that's where you made your move then. You went at the start of the Col de Vence and whereabouts were you when you caught, let me see, it was Ali, and was it Rudy von Berg? Was he the other guy at the front, I think? Where did you catch them?
So Rudy I catched a bit before the top, but he came past me again. And I think it was Ben Canute. I catched him at the top of the hill. And Ali I didn't catch before we started descent.
Okay. And that descent in Nice is it's a real bike rider's descent, isn't it? And
it was really fun. Yeah.
It's funny. I interviewed Holly Lawrence a couple of weeks ago, and she had the opposite point of view because she's like, I'm really powerful, and I've got I don't have, in her words, I don't have very good bike handling skills, so it was a nightmare for her. Now you're from a cycling background, aren't you? As a kid, that was your thing. So did you just love ripping down the hill on the way down?
It was super fun. And having Ali in front of me, and I watched him as the main competitors going into to the running. I just knew that he is the pace setter, and I'm not going to attack down the hill. I'm just going to save my energy. So it was actually quite nice, just sitting in his wheel and relaxing, and trying to save some energy for the run.
Nice. And were you aware at that point that I think there was there 3 of you or 4 of you coming into T2 together?
Yeah, I knew it was quite tight behind me on the top of the hill, because there you get some lap times or secondations back to the other guys. But in the downhill, you can't really hear anything. So when we came to the last few Ks going into T2, my brother was there and he said you have 5 minutes down to Kristian Blummenfelt. And I was like, that can't be right. And I knew that I had I at least had a podium, because I couldn't really lose 5 minutes on a half marathon.
Yeah.
But until that point, I had no idea how far behind otherwise guys were.
And then in terms of other exciting stuff that happened in the lead up to the race, is it right that you didn't have a helmet the day before the race as well?
So I had a helmet, but I had a normal road helmet.
Okay.
And I was supposed to get a new helmet from Oakley, like a TT helmet, but somehow they managed to forget it.
Oh no.
That was a bummer. But so then I just went on Instagram to ask some of the pros or someone if they could lend me a helmet for the race. And some guys from Ecoy or something just gave me a helmet, and it was nice.
Awesome.
But and it was also quite chill because the girls were racing the day before, so I knew like at least someone has a spare helmet from the girls' side.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
So it wasn't stressful.
So you're into T2. There's three of you together. You know you've got a podium sewn up. Where was your mindset at this point? What were you thinking? Obviously, you're lining up against, everyone knows Ali Brownlee. Rudy von Berg's got a great reputation as well. What were you thinking at that point?
I was thinking just to hold my own pace. So I had a goal of running 3:07. So that was like my pace. So I just went out of what I thought was going to be my pace. And then I saw Ali and Rudy lost a lot of time in T2 sitting down.
I was going to say, you had an amazing T2, didn't you?
I had a normal T2 for me, I would say.
Normal for you, love it.
Coming from ITU racing, like you're not sitting down in the T2.
Yeah.
Like this is racing. This is not like, yeah. So I gained a lot of seconds there, and then not even 2Ks in, I think Ali passed me in a crazy speed, and until then I had run 3:10 pace, so I guess 6:20 for 2K, and he lost 20 seconds in T2, and he gained 20 seconds in 2K, so he was been running 20 Ks an hour for the first 2K just to catch me, and he just came blasting past, and I really thought either he's in incredible shape or he doesn't really know how to pace himself. And but the mind kind of goes quite negative when you get past, so I just thought, okay, I will claim second place. It's still good, but But like 500 meters later, my brother was standing there and he said, Ali has been blown up before. He has shown before that he can really pace himself. So just keep your mind positive and you can take this. And for that on, I just watch my watch, see that the pacing was right, and it slowly gained on him.
Yeah, nice. And then you managed to overtake him by was it at about the 5K mark where you caught him? Was it the first turnaround?
Something like that, yeah. Just before the first turnaround. And my plan was actually to just stay in his back because it was slight headwind on the way back. But I was running behind him and he kind of had a strange rhythm with his legs. So it was kind of hard running behind him. So I decided really fast that I'm not saving any energy staying behind him because it's so stressful to watch his legs. So then I just passed him. Yeah.
That was a really brave. I thought it was a really brave move to go straight by at the 5K mark, because you often see these races play out where the two leaders will run side by side and play cat and mouse. And in retrospect, it was clearly the right decision to do to go by him. But I thought it was really brave at the time for you to kind of, we didn't know how fast the pair of you were running, but to pass him back at the 5K mark, I thought was really ballsy.
Yeah, I felt really confident also. Like up until there, I had catched him by a lot and he was not running a good pace. He was like adjusting the pace a lot. So that's not a sign of a fast run. Like if you're just running like slow and fast, that's like, if you're doing that, it may be a sign of weakness. I was running like steady pace, the same almost the whole way. So I was feeling great.
Awesome, man. And that was it for the race, wasn't it? From that point on, 15K solo. You looked very controlled the whole way. What point did it sink in you were actually going to win? And what was your brother saying to you?
My brother was actually saying, I don't know if he was trying to keep my mind on other things, but he said like, you have gained 3,000 followers on Instagram. So maybe trying to distract me from the racing or something, just to keep myself entertained, or I don't know. But it worked because I wasn't actually feeling really tired until the last few Ks. So I knew I had it when Alice suddenly lost like 110 or something. I guess that was 12K in the run. So it suddenly lost quite a bit. So that's when I knew I had it.
And it certainly looks from the articles that I've read that obviously you'd had some decent success that year. You'd had a third place in Bermuda, where you and Casper and Kristian went 1, 2, 3. You had fourth at the Olympic test event.
Yeah.
But in terms of being a pro, you're still very young at sort of 22, 23 years old. You didn't have very much by the way of personal sponsors at the time. You'd obviously been super quick when you raced out at, was it Abu Dhabi that you went really, really fast? Bahrain. You and Kristian, similarly, you went super, super fast there. So, but again, it was interesting even watching the coverage from Ironman, because I think that performance had gone a bit under the radar, and commentators were sort of saying, well, maybe this kid's gone too fast. He must be, he must be amazed to be up here with Alistair Brownlee. And we were sitting here looking at, your previous and going, no, he's got the previous to do that. Now, I don't know whether anyone would have picked you before the race to be a winner. You were definitely one of those like dark horses. Yeah. So how did your life change after winning the World Championships and really coming from almost from nowhere in the public consciousness?
Like in terms of myself, nothing has really changed. I was pretty confident already before the World Championship, but maybe it's always good to have the confirmation that you are as good as you think you are. But in terms of like international recognition and sponsors, it's totally upside down now. And I don't know if you're aware, but I got a semi superstar status in Taiwan also.
Yeah, now tell us about this, because this is all down to the mystery hats that you were wearing, wasn't it? The hat with the Taiwanese racing. So tell us the story of the cap.
Yeah. Before the test event, we were training in Japan, and I just found a hat on the side of the road where we were training, and I thought it looked cool, so I just started wearing it. And I actually wore it in the World Championship, because in T2 I had my glasses and the gels for the run in the cap, so to save some extra time in T2. So that's the part of the secret why I'm so fast in T2. So I just grabbed the cap with everything inside it and just started run, and then fixed things while on the go instead of sitting down, as you never do. And then I just wore it, and I guess one of the pictures of me crossing the finish line went viral in Taiwan, and people started wondering, why is the world champion wearing a Taiwanese hat? And it turns out the hat was from a temple there, and I didn't know what it said. I just used it. And then I was invited over there and visit the temple where the hat was from, and it was a couple thousand meeting there just to have selfies and something from me. And it was, I was traveling there with my manager, and it was an awesome 4-day experience.
Amazing. So you've now gained this kind of, did I read somewhere that the temple had to have 20,000 of these hats produced because now everybody wants to wear one?
Yeah. And that is old numbers. I don't know what the numbers are now, but it's a lot of people there wearing these hats.
So you became like a national figure of people rejoicing for you over in Taiwan. Yeah. Did that help with the bike deal with Giant, because they're based in Taiwan, aren't they?
Yeah, I guess it helped a bit. They are based in Taiwan, but I guess they just wanted someone new also, so of course it helps to be recognized in the country of where the sponsor is from. But I hope they wanted to support me regarding of my hat or not.
It's funny, isn't it, how a little thing like this can open the door possibly to a big company. That's amazing. Really cool. So right, going back to when you were a kid, how did you end up getting into triathlon in the first place? You mentioned that you were a bit of a cyclist when you were younger. So how did the cycling then develop into doing triathlon? Yeah,
I was both a cyclist and a runner, but being a cyclist was like more fun, and I was better there. But I still ran like 16:10 when I was 15. So That's pretty good for a 5K time.
Solid, yeah.
But it's not like international level or anything. But then it come a time where you have to choose what you're gonna specialize in, and I didn't want to stop running, and I didn't want to stop cycling, and I knew like if I'm gonna win the Tour de France or something, I couldn't really run as much as I would like to in the future and just do cycling. So then I decided to, instead of giving up running, I also needed to start learning to swim. And so then it was triathlon from there on.
And how old were you at the point you decided to swim then?
I guess I started swimming in a club when I was 14, 15. And then I stopped competitive cycling when I was 16.
Okay.
Something like that, yeah.
So you weren't one of these guys who was swimming from a very early age. 14 or 15 is like quite late, isn't it, for someone to take up swimming?
And swimming has been really, really challenging for me. It's such a technical sport, and it doesn't matter how strong you are. If you're not pushing the water in the right direction, it's not going anywhere. Yeah. So it has been a real challenge to become a swimmer, and I'm not close to being where I want to be yet. But it's a daily struggle, and luckily it's going in the right direction, and hopefully I will be in the front pack in not too long.
And how do the swims play out for you at the Olympic distance level when you're racing at WTS races or Super League or something like that? Do you consider that to be the weakest of the three?
Yeah, definitely the weakest. And the problem is it's sometimes it's okay and I could be close to the first group, but other times it's just like far off the pace. And it's not reliable at all what I'm doing right now. It's like throwing a dice and see where I finish. And,
I'll tell you what, it's so good to hear the world champions say that as well, because that's every age grouper's experience of swimming as well. As some days they have a good swim and other days a terrible swim, and you can't put your finger on why it's happened. So it happens all the way to the point that still happens when you're world champion. That's great to know.
I don't know if it's good to know, because then you know no matter how much you're swimming, it's still going to be like a random result. But but swimming is definitely where I put in most of my energy. Not right now because all the pools are closed in Norway, but it's where I'm definitely to improve to get an Olympic gold.
Okay, so let's talk about right now a little bit then. How are you adjusting to the situation right now with all the pools being closed? What are you managing to do, if anything, to try and help and maintain your swim?
I actually have a neighbor who has like a spa pool, so it's just a really small one. I know, like, it's not like an endless pool, so it's not like jets coming towards you. It's just like a hot tub, basically a big hot tub.
Okay,
and there I can attach like rubber bands around my feet or hips, and then I have some kind of swimming, but it's not like real swimming, and I don't think I get any better of it. I just doesn't get as worse as it could be.
Yeah, well, at least you're managing to get something done during this time, I suppose. It would be, imagine it'd be very difficult if you're in a situation where you can't do anything at all, and yeah, definitely.
But also the races are far away now, I guess. It's really uncertain when we can race again, but so that kind of make the situation okay. It's not like I have to really prepare for a race next week with no swimming, so
yeah. And I suppose everyone is in the same situation as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
So the other guys that you usually train with, you've got a bit of a sort of legendary little training group there with you and Kristian Blummenfelt and Kasper Stornes. You all train with your coach. Now I'm going to try and pronounce this correctly. Is it Arild Tveiten?
Arild Tveiten.
I got kind of close. I have to apologise to him for me. So it seems that you train in a sort of similar way that pro cyclists do. You're away on training camps quite a lot. How does a standard training block or camp or whatever work out for you? How long are you away for?
It kind of depends where we're going, but like if we go in altitude, the minimum week we are there is 3 weeks, because we need the altitude effect. So for altitude, it's basically 3 weeks, and sometimes even longer, depending on if we're racing and coming back up to altitude. And then we have another kind of training camp, which is heat training, where we go to Thailand, and there we are between 2 and 3 weeks. And we don't really do too much like normal training camps anymore, where we go to, not heat and not altitude. But if we're going there, it could be like 3-4 weeks.
Okay. And where do you go when you're training at altitude? Where do you choose as your bases for those?
We have 2 places now, which is the best for us. The spring one being in Sierra Nevada. I was supposed to be there now. That's located in Spain, in 2,300 meters above sea level. And we have a lot of pro cyclists there and runners and everything. So it's a really good training center for training.
Nice. Okay. And are you personally friendly with Kristian and Casper on a friendly basis? Do you guys keep in touch, or are you very much more like a professional training relationship?
Strictly professional. No, no, we are really good friends. And on the outside, it may seem like we only me, Kristian, and Casper together, but we are actually a big group in Norway training, and a big group in training camps mostly. So it's not like only us 3 going around. We are a big group, and we are extremely dedicated. And it's a real fun group to train with.
Nice. And is the whole group, are you all Norwegians, or is it more of an international mix?
Back home in Bergen, we are a group of Norwegians, and we have also one Swede training with us, Gabriel Sander. And in other training camps, we have sometimes had Lisa Norden with us. She's also silver medalist in Olympic and also Swedish. And we also have one Austrian girl.
So it seems like triathlon in Norway is on the up at the moment, very much so. What do you think has contributed to you guys all having the success that you've had?
I would say it's a bit of luck, because me and Kristian are almost the same age, coming from the same town, having the same values in training and everything, and we kind of just randomly met through triathlon. So it's a bit of a luck. I don't think any of us would be as we were if we don't have each other. And it's so random, us 2 coming from the same city. And but the thing that mostly made us good is our training. And we are extremely good at training, both like planning the training, but also like doing the training and doing everything we need to do.
It's amazing to think, isn't it, that you could have 2 Olympic medalists from one town in Norway in a year's time.
Yeah. Hopefully it will be next year. We'll see. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned your brother a little bit earlier on. I wanted to ask about him. Is it right that did he win Ironman? Was it Tallinn?
Yeah. So he raced there. He got a opportunity to race in Hawaii, but he said it's not his style, so he declined the Hawaii ticket. And he works as a coach for some of the athletes on the national team. And he is working a bit with me, but not like as a coach, more like a brother.
as a big brother. It sounds like he's got a good idea of mentally what you need at certain points in races. Sounds quite clever of him to shout the things about Instagram that he did as you went by. That's kind of clever coaching, isn't it?
Yeah. So he watched me grow up, so I guess he knows me quite well.
Yeah. Very cool. You've mentioned, Hawaii there. Let's talk about that for the potential future. Is that where you see yourself going, possibly post-Olympics, or is it something you think someone could do, Olympics and Ironman in the same kind of point in your career?
So I had maybe an idea of doing Kona this year, because after the Olympics in 2021, that was kind of like my free year, doing things I wanted to do and not really doing what I have to do, like all the World Series and everything, just like racing for fun, more like that. But of course now the Olympics has been postponed a year, and I can't do Hawaii the year before the Olympics, because everything for me is about the Olympics. Now I'm not so sure about the plan anymore, but I definitely have to do the Hawaii race once for sure.
And is the long distance stuff something that you really enjoy? Because I'd imagine, coming from a cycling background, you must have done some pretty big days on the quiet, right?
Yeah, I rode 302 Ks 2 days ago.
Really?
Yeah, me and Kristian was out on a trip together, and it was really nice. So it was nice weather for once in Bergen, so we just took the opportunity to have a long day in the saddle.
And you just rode the whole day. It was light, just 300 Ks all day.
Yeah, it was quite nice. Yeah, but I think I enjoy World Series races much more than long distance race. I mean, Nice was fun, but that was kind of an exception because the course was so different to what it's normally like. So that was kind of entertaining the whole way. But a normal 70.3 race, it's not really for me, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it a different thing when you're in a kind of Dubai type course where you're down on the aero bars for 2 hours and all you really see is 10 feet of tarmac in front of you?
Yeah, it's not as entertaining, and the tactics are a bit more limited. So one thing I love about the ITU style of racing is you have so many opportunities to do a lot of things. But in 7.3 and full Ironman, it's kind of limited how much you can play around. It's kind of like a set way of how you're going to race. I mean, you have to run a marathon by yourself almost. But in ITU, you have so many opportunities to race different every time. And that's kind of what's entertained me the most.
Yeah. And you're still really young as well. That's the other thing. You've got plenty of time in your career to do the long stuff.
Yeah.
Have you ever had thoughts about doing something like Norseman?
Norseman looks fun, but I have to do it after the career. It's such a bad timing wise. So Hawaii is okay because that's after my normal season, but Norseman is just like in the middle of it. So it's kind of, it can't be done right now.
Maybe one day, hey?
Yeah, maybe one day.
All right, so last question then. It strikes me that it must be a very challenging time to be a pro athlete at the moment with there being, all the restrictions in place, but also the uncertainty around if and when you're ever going to actually get to race again. How'd you deal with that?
I actually kind of enjoying right now because one of the reasons why I'm such a good athlete is because I love to train and I love to compete, but sometimes it's really stressful to always have to improve every single session. Like I have a plan with every session, like today I'm going to improve that or something. And improvement is the most fun part of triathlon, always trying to become better. But sometimes it could be quite stressful to like, this day I have to become better. If I don't become better, it's kind of like a failed day. So right now, the whole world has that opportunity to just chill more. So like the 302K ride 2 days ago, I could never done that like in a normal training situation because that would ruin like some days of training afterwards and you're tired, so you can't really improve for some days. And now it's just training with no really pressure. Just do what you want. Just relax with training and really, really enjoy what you're doing with no pressure to always improve yourself. So it's kind of nice, but I don't know if I could do this for a really long time because it's you're missing the opportunity to have the improvement. But I mean, I enjoy it for now.
Yeah, it does seem like if we let our minds wander to 2, 3, 4 months of this, that's quite hard to deal with. But if you keep yourself in the now, a 3 or 4 week or 6 week block in the middle of the year where you get to do something completely different and unstructured, if you live in the now, that's quite a good opportunity to just be completely refreshed, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's kind of like my season break now. We don't normally have this normal season break where other people are out partying or something. I never party or anything. I just in my season break I I train like I do now, more like for the sake of training, not for the sake of improvement.
Yeah.
So I actually enjoy it for now.
And have you got any inklings about any races on the calendar? Is there anything that, I mean, obviously the traditional race calendar is completely suspended at the moment, but have you heard any rumors about anything where I was reading the other day about UFC proposing to take all of their fighters to a private island and quarantine them there almost before they held a competition. Are there any rumors of anything like similar and crazy happening in the triathlon world?
No.
Not yet.
But that seems like a crazy idea. Maybe it's something Super League could do.
Well, that's exactly up their street, isn't it? Yeah. Fly you all to a private island somewhere.
Hamilton Island, where they had the first Super League. That would be awesome.
Yeah, wouldn't it? It's good thinking. Well, maybe you need to drop them an email and suggest it.
Yeah.
Hey, well, listen, it's been really great catching up with you. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show, man. I thought you were a great guy when we met out at Super League last year, and it's been great to do a long-form interview with you. So I wish you all the best, and I hope the sun keeps shining on you so you can keep doing crazy rides.
I think I'm going to have a long run afterwards. We'll see. We'll see what my day brings.
Good man. All right, buddy. Well, listen, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. See you later.
Great stuff. I hope you enjoyed that interview there with Gustav. He seems like a genuinely nice, really nice guy. When I met him out at Super League Malta, me and him hit it off straight away. We had a real laugh doing the interview and afterwards. And it's been great following his progress. I'd love to see him get out there and get some racing done this year. And I really think he's one to watch for the future in terms of potential Olympic gold medalist, potential Kona winner, obviously potential 70.3 world champs winner again. He's an absolutely cracking guy, and we had a real laugh. And it's really nice to see him and Kristian Blummenfelt training together, raised and born and brought up in the same town of Bergen in Norway. And, just two guys who grew up training and racing together, and now they found themselves at the very top of the tree. And I think we'll be seeing a lot more from the two of them over at least the next decade and beyond. All right, guys, that pretty much wraps up this week's edition. Remember, if you want a bit of Zwift action with us, you can join us at 7:15 every Tuesday over on Zwift. Just go to the events page and you can click on join there. It'll send you an invite, and you've just got to be there ready to go 5 minutes or so before the event. What else have I got to mention to you? Thanks to our sponsors, Precision Hydration. Use the code OxygenAddict15 for 15% off your first order. athleticgreens.com/OxygenAddict gets you 20 free travel packs worth over 60 quid with your first order. And Thriver.co, you can use the code OxygenAddict50 for 50% off your first at-home blood test. If you want to have a blood test and work out what's going on inside your body at the moment, I highly recommend those guys as well. So remember, there's links to all of those in the show notes, so you don't have to remember them. And until next week, have a great, safe training and racing week. I'm Coach Rob Wilby, and you've been listening to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon Podcast. See ya.